in the 9 hells was that? He snarled angrily, heart thudding in his ears. He felt like a man waking from a nightmare, but somehow he knew that wasn't so. He could remember the bodies of the dead pressing up against him, limbs and organs floating freely as something reached into his chest and... Yen shook his head, forcefully pushing the imagery out as he slowly climbed to his feet and looked around, this time with eyes that saw his surroundings rather than imagined memories. He recognized many members of his triad, the commercial guild of shining righteousness, as well as several key members of their key rivals, the 20,000. He instantly reached for his pistol, only to find it gone. As he looked for it in his clothing, Yen realized that he was wearing the tattered remnants of his $20,000 suit. "Whoever ruined my clothing is going to die," he pledged through gritted teeth, "slowly and painfully. You always were a vain pretty boy, Yen." He spun on the voice, recognizing the leader of the 20,000 triad, who was now getting to his feet. "Luca," Yen spat, "if you had something to do with this—" "You'll what?" Sho-Ah Luca asked, rolling his eyes. "Kill me more than you already planned to? I'm not afraid of you, Yen, so spare me the mindless ravings about your pretty boy fashion sense and personal psychosis. Perhaps that's always been your problem. You should be." Yen shifted threateningly, hands balling up into fists. "You think to threaten me, pansy boy?" Luca laughed, lifting his hands to gesture in a come-and-get-me manner. "I'll kick your ass to the curb twice, then do the same to your whole damn gang." Yen's heart was hammering in his chest, the sound of it drowning out everything else around him as he felt himself roar and lunge. The speed of his strike surprised him just as much as it appeared to shock Luca, who barely managed to get his arms up in defense. It didn't matter, though, too little too late. The blow struck through the weak defense, and Yen's fist struck low in Luca's chest, lifting him clear off the ground and sending him flying back across the street they were in until he slammed into a building. The cement of the old tenement cracked, and the building visibly shuddered under the impact as dust and chips rained down from above. For a moment, no one moved. The shock on all faces was evident, none more so than Yen's own. That shock was only multiplied, however, when the body of Luca shifted and moved, and the triad leader pried himself out of the indentation he'd made when he struck the building. Luca dropped a few feet to the ground, looking back at the damage with surprise on his own face, and then down at one of the chunks of cement that had fallen when he broke himself loose. He knelt down, picking up the material, and turned it over in his hands as he marveled at just how good he felt. Luca closed his fist, turning the cement to powder as a manic grin spread across his face, and he looked up sharply to where his rival was standing, staring. "This is an interesting development," he said simply, right before launching himself across the darkened street at Yen. Shen's eyes widened, and he would have been hard-pressed to say whether it was more in shock or horror as he watched the two gang leaders tear into one another with a fury normally reserved for the cinemas. Granted, none of them were as skilled as the action heroes in the local cinema, but they made up for it in sheer power and ferocity. The air visibly shook as they rained blow after blow upon one another, making the whole scene like a surreal moment out of time from what he could tell. What is happening?" Chi asked, her voice stunned. "I do not know. I hope I am dreaming," he answered, "because if this is real, no nightmare could be worse." Chi nodded beside him as the pair shrank more into the shadows, desperately trying not to be noticed. They weren't the only ones. Many of those others in the street who had awakened